Alright, let's just take a second and mentally visualize ourselves back in the years of the late 1960s. I'm sure you're picturing Americans with afros, bell bottoms, tie dye t shirts, and Barbie dolls. But let's not forget that not everything during this time was all sunshine and rainbows. What about racial inequality, riots, the death of Martin Luther King Jr., and perhaps one of the most horrifying events of the 60s, the outbreak of the rubella disease? This was not this was a disease that affected thousands of newborns and resulted in their death. I'm sure we could go back in time and discover that all those who were affected by the disease and parents of the children who were affected by the disease would do absolutely anything in their power to make sure nothing like it ever happened again. The rising problem of today's society and in rising generations is the influence of a common misconception that vaccinations that prevent such horrific diseases cause autism or have other serious side effects. This is simply not accurate. There was a study done by Havid, Hansen, Frisch, and Melby of the Annals International Medicine, in which their conclusion states that the study strongly supports that MMR vaccination does not increase the risk for autism, does not trigger autism in susceptible children, and is not associated with clustering of autism cases after vaccination. Today's researchers and scientists have provided us with a myriad of up-to-date, clear, reliable sources confirming that these rumors are nothing but untrue myths. It seems as if confused parents and young adults are constantly being bombarded with contradicting arguments and facts or opinions about this issue. We simply cannot afford to let the likelihood of our society's health and the survival of these hang on the survival of these false accusations. And according to a study done by the Alliance for Aging Research team, there is no evidence that spreading or delaying timing of a child's vaccinations has any tangible benefit. Having already imagined what it must have been like for those affected by the tragic event of the rubella outbreak back in the 60s, we can now go ahead and imagine what could have been if they had all had access to the necessary vaccinations. If they were told that they could have been prevented and could go back in time to do so, we all know they would have chosen to do it in a heartbeat. So why do we feel that way today? It's the clear, seemingly and needlessly difficult task of convincing the entirety of our American society to vaccinate themselves and their children would be the simplest fix to this problem. However, this cannot be accomplished if we do not all understand and agree that it is truly safe for the benefit of each individual in the nation as a whole. In an article published by the New York Times written by Guer, Redfield, and Adams, they find that in 2017, only 49% of American adolescents received all of the recommended doses of the HPV vaccine. This is the best way to protect both males and females from developing certain cancers, including cervical, anal, mouth, and throat cancers. Only 1 in 5 teenagers, approximately 4.5 million people, have not received this vaccination for contagious form of bacterial meningitis. Even though the swift-moving disease can leave an otherwise healthy child facing amputation, organ failure, or death within the first 24 hours of onset. By vaccinating one child, you are not only protecting them from the possible onset of a deadly disease, but you are also protecting your entire society from the continuation or spread of the disease, which otherwise could potentially affect thousands or more. According to the CDC, for Americans born between 1994 and 2013, it is estimated vaccines will prevent 322 million illnesses, 21 million hospitalizations, and 732,000 deaths over the course of their lifetime. So first things first, get educated, seek out proper sources and correct information. In an article by Pam Billick and Reed Abelson in the New York Times website, they state billions of doses of vaccines have been given to Americans in the 30 years of injury program's existence. During that time, about 21,000 people filed claims. Of 18,000 claims that have been evaluated so far, roughly 2/3 have been dismissed because the program determined that the evidence showed vaccines were not at fault. Vaccinate yourself. Vaccinate your children. Protect your family, friends, and neighborhood by taking the necessary, immediate, and easily accessible measures. Then pass this information along. Make sure that anyone under your influence is also properly educated on the issue and understands the vital information concerning vaccinations. Teach your community and make your opinion heard. Back it up with credible facts and statistics. We need not let history repeat itself. Ensure that your society obtains the appropriate education to effectively decide for themselves what they believe. Do not let them come to blind conclusions.